Mr. Bixby is trying to log on right now.
I got Mr. Bixby coming in right now.
Okay. There he is. All right, good evening, everyone. If it's okay with everybody, I'll go ahead and start the meeting. Let me know when we're ready. Oh, we're streaming already. Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. It's now 6:34. This is the regular meeting of the board. It's now called to order, February 22nd, 2021. Angie, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Biederman.
Present.
Mr. Bixby.
Present.
Dr. Jett.
Here.
Dr. Murtada.
Present.
Ms. Payne.
Pat, you're muted again.
Here.
Yeah, thank you. Reverend Robinson.
Here.
And Judge Salinas.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Chair recognizes a quorum. First thing on the agenda, we're going to go ahead and welcome and have an overview of the program development in the program development area. Melissa, are you there? There she is.
Here I am.
Melissa Wooden. Ma'am, if you want to go ahead and start your program. Thank you for joining us, by the way. I do appreciate that tonight.
Thank you for, we're glad to be your virtual host tonight in the programming department. So good evening, Judge Salinas and members of the library board and staff and guests. I'm Melissa Wooten. I'm the adult services manager in the programming department. And we'd just like to introduce ourselves to you tonight and talk about a couple of upcoming program initiatives we have, and then we'd be happy to answer any questions. So I'd like to start with we have 3 members of our team who are not here tonight. Tony Radford, who's our artist in residence, Dallas Sims, our administrative assistant, and Sindhu Pathak, who's our gifts and grants specialist. And those two especially are kind of the glue who keep us together most days. Tony's busy with some Meet the Artist things. The other 2 members of the adult services team are Tariq Robinson and Claudia Montes Salinas. So Tariq, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. Tariq Robinson. I'm the adult program specialist. Nice to be here, and been with the library now for just over a year now. So thanks again for having us.
Welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Claudia Montesalinas, and I am also part of the PDA program. I am the Immigrant and Refugee Program Specialist, and I've been with the library for a little over a year as well.
Welcome.
Okay. I am Sharon Bernhardt, and I'm the Youth Services Manager, and all 3 of my team members are here this evening. So I will let them introduce themselves and tell a little bit about what they do. And then Kirsten's going to share some program information with you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tammy Edminster, and I work on the youth services side. I've been with the library about over 25 years and a children's librarian at heart. Have worked at East Washington, Broadway, Southport, but I've been in the office for a long time and work on family engagement and kind of youth programs for school-age kids.
Thank you. Welcome.
And I'm Shale Weidenbach, and I am brand new to the library, but I've been working in education for over 20 years. And I am the early literacy specialist, so focusing on programs and initiatives for 0 to 5-year-olds as well as their caregivers.
I am Kirsten Weaver, and I am the teen programming specialist. I have been with IndyPL for 5 years now, working in teen services for 10 and libraries for 20. And I wanted to tell you guys about a new program we're getting started. It's called Adulting 101. So we've seen a need for a lot of different topics with our teens and our new adults as well, with topics and ideas that they just don't learn about in school or sometimes at home. So we're going to be bringing in local presenters for a variety of topics, everything from car care to what do you need when you move into your first apartment. This weekend, we actually have a local doctor that's going to talk to the kids about COVID and is going to let them ask questions, because as adults, we have lots of questions. So we're sure they also have questions. And so this program is going to try and give them the opportunity to learn about a lot of the different adulting ideas that we kind of pick up as we go. And we don't always think to tell them.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And now I'm going to turn it back over to Claudia.
I wanted to highlight a new partnership we have with the Mexican consulate here in Indianapolis. We have started the development of a plaza comunitaria, which is where adults who did not finish their elementary or middle school for whatever reason will get to finish it. The program also supports literacy development. So for adults who maybe might lack literacy skills, and we are going to start that program in the fall, starting at our Hawville branch, but hopefully expanding afterwards. So thank you so much for having us tonight. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have, or any questions you might have for the rest of the PDA team.
Thank you.
I want to know who the precious young person is to your right, Claudia.
That's my daughter. She's just playing, and she wanted my attention right as I was talking.
Which is why we do the work that we do. Which is why we do so much appreciated on Kirsten. Your work on adulting is critical right now. So thank you. It's great to hear about the teen service, because sometimes the young people don't get heard when we know that they are experiencing this time of pandemics. And
Definitely.
so thank you for the adulting. That's critically important. Claudia, my question has to do with how do we support literacy for a growing population that we need to be even more mindful of? What are some of the specific strategies that you're going to use? Can you just share just a little bit of that?
Yeah, so the program is very exciting. There are plaza comunitarias all over the United States because it's an initiative of the Mexican government. However, there is no plaza comunitaria in central Indiana. So they are going to do the training, and the training is actually done by the National Institute of Education for Adults in Mexico. So our librarians from Hawville are going to get trained in the program, and it's a self-paced program. So people are going to be working based on an introduction test that they'll take, and then they'll work from there then on.
Could you put that in the chat box, the name of the program in the chat?
Yes.
That would be wonderful. That way we can publicize even more information about it through our channels, our outreach channels as well.
Yeah, I will. And we have been getting a lot of media attention, and I have been getting a lot of emails from schools, from people who want to enroll in the program. And I keep telling them we'll be ready in the fall, but I'm keeping all of that information.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Melissa, did you want to say some more about the programs we got, or Sharon?
I would just say that we are in the process of planning our 2021 summer reading program, which will launch on June 7th. And we will be happy to share some more information as we get closer to that date. We are hoping to be able to increase our participation this year and get all of our material out to the schools in time before they would be closing for the summer.
And right now, I would just encourage everyone to check our online calendar of events. We're offering online programming only through March 31st right now. So we are working on some different, we're planning ahead right now, but just at least through the end of March online, we have a lot of music. We're starting our seed library programming up pretty soon. And we have a variety of, for all different age and interests. So I would encourage everyone to check the online calendar of events.
Melissa, are we tracking the number of people that are going online for these programs?
We do. Some programs we can just check views, like for Facebook and YouTube. And then some programs we have offered kits that go along with the program, so we can track the number of kits that are that patrons pick up for the programs. So views and number of kits are the main ways we're checking the programs.
Okay.
Mhm.
Does the board have any other questions or comments of our staff?
I'm here. Thank you very much.
I don't hear any. Thank you so much, guys. I do appreciate all the work that you guys are doing on behalf of the library. If it wasn't for the people that are like you that are doing these programs, we wouldn't be near as effective as a library as a whole as we are. So thank you again.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
God bless. Be safe. All right, board, we're going to go ahead and move on to item 4, public comment and communications. In lieu of the extreme emergency facing our city and in keeping with the executive order issued by the governor, the public will not be invited to physically attend this meeting, but has the ability to listen to the regular meeting via live stream on YouTube link, and or public comments can be made in person at the Library Services Center or submitted in writing in advance at IndyPL.org/contact. We do have, well, I know Mr. Torres would like to make a comment. Do we have any other people at the library that would like to make a comment at the Library Service Center?
No, there is no one else that is at the Library Services Center.
Okay. Mr. Torres, welcome to the meeting.
Good evening, board members. I don't know what's going on with my camera and everything. So, yeah, and I have a huge echo.
We can see you. It's weird. You're on there twice, but we can hear you. We're good.
Okay. Good. I just have a question about how public comment that is submitted to the board is going to be handled. Last month, 2 comments were submitted, and they were entered into the meeting minutes. I had a conversation with the CEO, and we didn't come to a resolution about it. So I was wondering how the board feels, if you have to figure out how that's going to be handled, because it's mentioned twice on the first page of the agenda, but it doesn't say how it's going to get read or if it's going to get submitted in the minutes. And then in the agenda on 4A, it says there will be via live stream YouTube. So I think that, if we're going to have public comment, that it should probably read during actual public comment of section during the meeting. So that's my question to the board. Just guys figure out how it's going to be done. So if someone submits a letter or public comment, they'll know how it's going to be handled.
I was under the impression that it would just become part of the minutes, okay? And if I could be wrong on that, Michael, I know we have Russell here as far as what we're legally required to do, and that's the important thing. What are we legally required to do in addition to what we should do? So I'll ask Jackie.
We do have, Judge, we do have 2 comments that were submitted on January the 26th that we were going to read into the, that I was going to read tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we talking about, hang on, Mike, are we talking about past comments or going forward?
Going forward.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure. I just have to be part of the record, but if we have to, not have to, if the obligation is that we read them, I'm fine with that, as long as it's not a 28-page manuscript. Because we do have, I think it was a 5-minute time limit or a 2-minute time, I forget what it was. And so as long as it's not a manuscript, I'm fine reading it into the record someone. Does the board feel differently?
Thank you. That was my question.
Well, let me get comments from the board to me if they do feel differently.
Okay, thank you. I'm done.
My question is.
Yeah, I don't feel differently. You know, if it's, as long as it's not a novel, you know, we can have them read into the record.
Yeah.
Terry?
I agree with that.
I agree they should be read into the minutes.
Okay. The only caveat would, I mean, if it was a novelist, just in case, it would still be, I still would encourage it to become part of our minutes, okay? And then if it's on the same subject, because we always, well, not the same subject. If 2 or 3 people from the same organization submit, we always tell, you know, have one speaker to speak for everybody. At least that's how I remember the process being, okay? Does anyone remember it differently?
No, I don't remember that part differently, but Russell, are there certain like public comment types? I know in other government entities that the public comments have to relate in a certain way to either something that's being considered or you know, something financially related. And I didn't know if there was that qualification for the library board.
So for the public comments at the beginning of the agenda, I don't believe there's any obligation as it relates to what must or must not be done, or when it, you know, what time frame or any of those things that govern how you must take public comment. You know, obviously, as we go through a public hearing, that's different. As like we'll have later this evening, those have obligations, and we've worked through the mechanics of how those can be received. But as it relates specifically to just general public comments, where they are on the agenda, how much time you allow, I think that's completely within the discretion of the board. And so if the proposal is to, we would read them into the record as if they were given, you know, as public testimony, that's a good middle ground given the limitations of virtual meetings.
The only, go ahead.
To the extent they are, you know, exceed what would be allowed for public comment, to have them incorporated into the record is a good solution as well. It shows up in the minutes of the meeting, and it might just be noted that that was in the minutes, that it was presented as written comments instead of that would be a way to denote it in the meeting minutes for accuracy.
My only other caveat, board, is if there's any inappropriate comments in the submissions that obviously we'll all get a copy of it, that, you know, whomever's going, that we have the ability to, like, if there's cuss words or something like that, and I don't really think we should need to read that into the minutes. We can say, we can beep ourselves or something like that, whomever's reading them. But stuff like that, if it comes up, I'm pretty sure we can deal with it on a case-by-case basis. But Mr. Torres, read them in the minutes. I think that's fine. All right, that's all we had as far as public comment, correct, folks? Jackie?
I believe Angie is prepared to read the 2 letters that you have received.
Okay, go ahead, Angie.
Yes, this is from Luke Parker. Mr. Parker says, keep the libraries closed. With the new, even more infectious strains of corona around, reopening the libraries is not only reckless, but incredibly dangerous. The fact that considering reopening the libraries this soon with a new, more infectious strain is one of the worst ideas to be brought up. I love the library, but if you reopen before it truly deemed safe, simply because people want to browse, you might as well be saying the staff isn't important and it is disposable. Keep the libraries closed. That's the end of that comment. And then the one other one we have is, just a second. Oh. This one. The second one is from Lisa Riolo. It's R-I-O-L-O. She says, please do not reopen the library to visitors. The library has been a leader in protecting the public. Please don't cave in to pressure to ignore public health guidelines. that concludes the two comments.
Okay, thank you so much. And we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is approval of the minutes, the executive session, regular and special meetings. This was the January 25th, 2021 regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held January 25th, 2001?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes or corrections or additions? Seeing none, Angie, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Biederman,
Approve.
Mr. Bigsby,
Approved.
Dr. Jett,
Approve.
Dr. Murtada,
Approved.
Ms. Payne,
Approve.
Reverend Robinson,
Approved.
and Judge Salinas.
Approved.
Thank you.
Motion carries. We'll move on to, is that all the minutes we had? I think so. Yes, we'll move on to the committee reports. The Finance Committee, Dr. Payne.
Yes. EJ? Where are you, EJ?
I am here. Sorry, I was still on mute. Couldn't.
Don't scare me like that, EJ.
I am here. We have two items, two very easy routine items for you guys, so I'll be very quick. But I want to share my screen and just scroll through my items. All right, our first item is our treasurer's report for January. There is nothing out of the ordinary in the January report. This was part of your packet. I do want to point out two new things that we added this year, and encourage you, if as you're reading the report, you find something that you would like to see a little bit differently, please let me know, and we're always open to improving the report. So on page, having trouble scrolling here. Okay, on the second page of the report, we added some charts, and we're going to show the year-to-date charts every year. So this is just January. What we're doing is comparing the last couple years, just so you can see how this year compares to previous years. So in this one, we're looking at total revenues for January. The blue is 2021, and then the red is 2020, and then 2019 and 2018. So you can just see how we're trending and if there's something abnormal happening. And then for expenditures, the same thing. And then the next chart, we're showing a little bit more detail for the major expenditure categories. So we're showing salaries as compared to previous years, benefits, supplies, and so on. So January is kind of all over the map because we were sometimes playing catch up from December in January, but as the year goes on, this will start to make more sense. But I wanted to show you guys that part since it's new. And then there's one other new part we have in the treasurer's report, which is for the gift and grant fund. Can get there. We are now showing, so for the revenues, we're showing the account categories like we always have. But for the expenditure side, we thought it would make more sense to show you the projects. So when you look at what we spent our money on, instead of seeing supplies and programming, which is all of what we spend in gift and grant, you'll now see some of the unrestricted gift funds for each branch, which is donations that are made specifically to that branch. And then you'll see our bigger projects like the Digital Encyclopedia of Indianapolis. We spent $152,000 approximately on that. You'll see how much we've spent on summer reading, simple, affordable, plant-based cook, just so you can have a flavor of what programs we're spending our money on from our donations and our grants. So that's one other new thing in our treasurer's report. Have any questions on the treasurer's report? Okay, if there's no questions, I would like to ask that you approve this to be submitted for audit.
Is there a motion to accept the report for the treasurers?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? This is for January 2021. Any discussion on the motion?
Just want to be thankful that from EJ, that we now have the comparison from previous years in the report. That's very helpful to see how even COVID has impacted us. Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, any other comments from the board or discussion or questions on the treasurer's report for January? Seeing none or hearing none, Angie Knapp will call the roll, please.
Mr. Biederman,
Approve.
Mr. Bixby,
Approved.
Dr. Jett,
Approve.
Dr. Murtada,
Approved.
Ms. Payne,
Approve.
Reverend Robinson,
Approve.
and Judge Salinas.
Approved.
Thank you.
Motion carried. EJ, I think you're up for item B.
Yes, so item 6B is just our 2020 investment report. In January, you once again approved that the Marion County Board of Finance would serve as the library's Board of Finance. We have one meeting a year, and that meeting was held on January 29th. At that meeting, we presented our annual investment report. And so I've just attached that report for your review. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask me. I do want to just show you quickly one page of the report. This is just comparing our yield, which, as you can see, started out just fine beginning of the year and then dropped with the pandemic. But this purple solid bold line is IndyPL's yield. And then one that we like to compare ourselves to and we invest in is Trust Indiana. So the blue dotted line is Trust Indiana. And then you have the 1-year treasury rate, which is this pinkish line. And then you have the 10-year treasury rate, which is this yellow line. So this just is showing you where we landed as compared to all these benchmarks. And as you can see, earlier in the year, there was not a lot of difference between the short-term and the long-term rates. Of course, that diverged starting in April. But even with that, we still did a little bit better than Trust Indiana because we were invested in some bonds through Fifth Third Bank. So that is where we fall. Yes, and I still have a question.
EJ, when you say benchmark yield, what are you referring to?
So these are just, so this is the 10-year treasury bond yield. So we're just using it as something to compare ourselves to.
Okay.
It's standard rate that we're comparing our interest rates to what we're getting for interest earnings.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? If not, that's all I have.
Thank you, EJ. Appreciate that.
Can I just say one more thing? I just wanted to thank you, EJ, for the first of our 4 meetings, committee meetings that we're going to be having. That was very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Okay.
Okay, we're going to move on, folks, to item 7, Diversity, Policy, and Human Resources Committee. Curtis? Oh, you're muted, sir.
We didn't have anything. We didn't meet.
Okay, then we'll go ahead Number 8, Facilities Committee, Dr. Jett.
Okay, Sharon.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Tonight, we have 2 items. The first is a briefing report. And while you have a lot of the information in your packet, we do have Kevin Montgomery from KRM Architecture here, who will have a few more visuals for you that we did not have ready. We had a facilities committee meeting this afternoon to discuss some of the design. And so we will be able to bring that to you this evening. So right now I would like to introduce Kevin Montgomery.
Hi, everyone.
Evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, and see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we have about a 10-minute presentation as an update for the Glendale branch replacement project. I'm Kevin Montgomery with KRM Architecture. We also have Russell from Powers & Sons, who is the CM on the project. And first, did Judy join us tonight? I think she was going to talk about the community engagement process that we started last fall.
Yes. I'm here, Kevin.
Okay.
Okay. So last fall, we started talking to the community about what they wanted in their new library. We had interactive boards in the branch. They were up for about 2 months. During that time, we had to take pictures of them multiple times so we could send them off to KRM because they got so crowded because people were so excited about wanting to give their input that we had to clear them off and let people start over. We had 2 sessions for community input, which were held on Zoom. One was September 17th and one was October 7th. We had approximately 33 patrons attend, plus a few staff. And then we also did a community survey, which was done through the IndyPL website, and we had 1,079 responses for that. So we asked folks what they were excited to see at their new Glendale branch. And these are in no particular order, but these are the items that they really brought up. Green space outside, an open, bright interior. And if you've been to Glendale currently, you'll know we have no windows. We're in an old mall. So that's really important to have the open, bright interior. An auditorium or a large meeting room. A play area for children. Ease of access into the building, which is also a direct action from where we're at now, where our folks have to park in the parking lot, come into the building, take an elevator up, go down a hallway. Some of our senior citizens have to sit down and have a break in the middle. Programming for children, areas to study or have meetings, and they definitely wanted to keep their drive-up book drop. We also asked them what concerns they had about the new location, the new building, any of that. And they only had 2. One was drainage issues with the site. They said that they knew that the school had had issues with it in the past. And then the other was that they were concerned about the possibility of the homeless population starting to camp in the woods around the area because they will come to the library. But overall, we had good feedback from the folks we talked with. Brandy, who's the circulation supervisor at Glendale, and myself spent a lot of time trying to get our patrons to fill out the survey or at least leave their comments on the interactive boards.
Thanks, Judy. So to blow up a few of those images from the boards that got the most likes, so to speak, it really did gravitate a lot towards the outdoor space, nature, and then even within the building, how connected could we be to the exterior? And they really kind of got defined or synthesized down into these themes. A lot of talk about, this is surrounded by residential neighborhood in every direction for about a half mile. So it was a lot about, you know, the trail that's on 62nd Street and the large mature trees that are on site, and kind of fitting in with the scale of a neighborhood. Again, really positive, excited for the library to come there. We brought that into kind of this design strategy, and it's, you know, an extension of the home for the community, making sure we focus on the shared outdoor spaces, protecting the wooded site, and fitting into that neighborhood. Just real briefly, you know, the design process focused on forming this idea of a front porch. There was the combination of connecting in the neighborhood and connecting to nature. So we have John Strange that was just demolished last week, and that's that existing footprint there. So we positioned the parking in the largest open space where they had the playgrounds to disturb the site less, and using the existing footprint as much as possible to protect existing utilities and save cost. And then within that footprint, looked at how the scale of the building would be broken down a little bit to respect the neighborhood scale. And then identified areas within that footprint to push the outside into the building. So allow, you know, large openings, a lot of daylight and greenery to come deeper into the space. But also found an opportunity to make the building stand a little more proud and come out from that footprint to get a little bit closer to the road and the corner intersection that has a stoplight, and a lot of people will, you know, view the building for the first time from. And then pull that greenery, those spaces in, and create the main circulation spaces within the building. And then lastly, just an illustration of how that started to translate into some of the massing of the architecture. Look specifically at the site plan. You can see ghosted lightly below is the existing conditions that had the parking and bus drive for the school around the front and the west side. As part of that, preserving the natural setting of the site and building upon it, we are removing that front parking drive. So there's a little bit more of a lawn. The building stays set back, much in line with the residences on either side. There's an existing curb cut right now off of 62nd Street that'll be utilized, and there'll be a total of over 100 parking spaces. There will be that drive-up book drop, and again, kind of this nice welcoming front porch area. The stormwater is going to be managed on site and taken north to the creek, which is direction given by the city of Indianapolis. We are just in schematic design, but we're starting to get into those the selection of materials, or at least type of materials. So we'll show you the renderings here in a minute, but you have to use your imagination a little bit early in the design process. So think of these type of materials when you see the images. A lot of the building will be a masonry product, a stone that has variation and some warmth, but is relatively light so that the building stands out against kind of the denser trees that you'll look through to see the building. It's accented by a more modern metal panel system. And then this idea of a screening that feels kind of organic and natural is a way to transpose that idea of the wooded site onto the building, but also give a little bit more pop and character and dynamic attention to the building. Similarly, when you see the renderings, think about the front porch idea and having this really kind of crystal clear opening to the outside that's very inviting, front porch setting. And then we have this little courtyard space that is another way to bring that nature into the building. The first view, you're looking from the southeast corner. Just as you come up that drive and enter the parking lot, you'd be greeted by that feeling of a front porch, these large openings, glass openings that could have some type of screen, to be defined and developed much further as we move deeper into design. But they'll knock down some of the sunlight, but also be interesting and decorative, and could be film, could be a few different things that we're exploring. And then again, largely a masonry building with accents of other materials. slow on my end, so I can only imagine how slow it is on everyone else's.
This is what it looks like during a snowstorm.
Yeah, full blizzard whiteout. Huh. I had this issue. I've had this PDF open too long. Let's see. Just didn't like the last view. It doesn't like this one either. Sorry, guys. Okay, here's one. I'm going to jump back to those other ones in a minute, but this is looking kind of elevated above the trees from 62nd Street. So this is kind of the main front elevation of the building. Again, seeing that front porch. And you know, the openings continue kind of around the corner. This is where we kind of stretch the building towards that main intersection. You'll see into the adult area and the activity of kind of the lounge space through that glass. Let's try again, and then I'll skip. Okay, here we're down low, right on 62nd Street, and the other one was here of the main entrance as you'd approach after you park and are starting to walk into the building. The scale comes down. The front is higher, just again to create more attention, and we're set back from the street a good distance, so the building will be over 20 feet tall up around the front, and then as you move back into the site, it's a little shallower for cost and scale of the neighborhood. Okay, skip to the interior. So north is still up. Here's the parking lot on the right side. So you'll come in, you'll park, and you'll enter the main vestibule here and be flanked by staff and circulation on one side with holds, and then the most circulated items will kind of surround you and be the connector piece into small seating, lounge space that spills into that outdoor front porch feel. As you move deeper into the building, the adult collection and spaces will be on your left, so either study, lounge, and computer spaces. Eventually the bulk of the collection there in the bottom left, and then finally kind of a quieter lounge space, not fully enclosed, but study space along the windows. And then this is actually an outdoor space, so it says outdoor courtyard there. So all the departments, so to speak, the adult, teen, and children's, all kind of have views into this space that can be used for small programs, or just during nice weather, be able to go outside and do your studying or meeting out there. And then you could travel to the upper corner, and you'd be tucked into the children's area. So trying to contain the acoustics and the sound for them. Still working on the development of these interior spaces, of course, but a lot of low shelving, the book bins, like the newer system of viewing for the children, as well as some interactive areas and computers for both adults and children in this area as well. As Judy mentioned, there is a large meeting room. It's not, really the difference to an auditorium would be a sloped floor or stepped seating. This will be flat for more multi-purpose uses. And then finally, the support spaces in the upper right corner that are connected to staff, entrance, deliveries, as well as the book drop system. Yeah, just a couple more slides. This is a view. We came in the vestibule and slid over to the south a little bit, so you're looking kind of from the front of the building deep into the space. You can see the circulation desk over on the right. This is the new book area. A lot of daylight. Again, the building height kind of steps, so it allows that clear story. So we have daylight penetrating from all directions within the building. And finally, a view between that connector. So this is one of those courtyard type spaces that pull a little bit, more into the building and create some of the really highlighted seating opportunities inside. I think I saw Russell on. Russell, do you want to cover this slide?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, we Powers and Sons has taken a look at the preliminary designs from the schematic phase that KRM has done and looked at the budget. Right now, we're in target to the budget. We're a little over, which is not unusual at this stage of the process. But as we work with KRM and they define the design and refine it, we feel like we will be able to complete the process and be within the allocated funds for the project. So we look forward to continuing the process and going into a successful construction phase.
Thanks. Yep. And here's kind of that overall project schedule. Go through design for the remainder of the winter and spring. It bids this summer and begins construction at the kind of the end of summer, and then we'll take roughly a year to complete. And you guys will be moving in next fall of 2022 to open by hopefully the end of the year. Sharon, that's all we have.
Okay, are there any questions from the board? As I say, this is just a briefing report. It does not require action, and they will come back with the actual completed design to the board, so you'll be able to see what the final product is. But are there any questions?
Thank you so much for the presentation, guys. They're very impressive.
Okay, we'll move on to item 8B, which is a...
hang on, Sharon. I need to, there's a procedure here. I need to convene a public hearing.
Yes.
So I will recess the regular meeting and convene a public hearing so we can move on to the next item, which is to consider the disposal of the real estate located 3325 Lowry Road. So Ms. Smith, Sharon, if you can go ahead and discuss that item now that we are in the public meeting.
All right, thank you. This is Resolution 11-2021, authorization to sell real estate located at 3425 Lowry Road. We are recommending approval for the attached action to sell this property to Little Scholars Child Care LLC. And they are an established business in the area. They have received and worked well with our branch manager at Eagle, Mary Agnes Hilton, and her staff on programming. And we're just very excited that this kind of a resource can be brought to the community that has, just quite honestly, they don't have a lot of resources. So very excited about this. The library board by resolution did assign the task to the CEO for negotiation and purchase agreement. And we received this offer at the asking price of $400,000. Little Scholars has been providing services in the area since 2009, and this is a surplus property for us. We don't need it for anything else, and it will be great to get it off of our operating budget.
Procedural-wise, I will now invite the public to comment. If there's anybody in our audience, whether at the service center or online that would like to make a comment. Do we have any, John or Jackie, to our knowledge?
No, nobody's here at LSC.
And no one has contacted me.
I now will request a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
I do not need a roll call on this. The public hearing is now closed, and now we will resume. Our regular meeting is now convened. Now, Sharon, we will consider resolution 11-2021.
Thank you. So I did give you the background on that. If you have any questions.
Yes, do we have any questions from the board of Sharon with respect to item or resolution 20-2021, the authorization to sell the real estate located on Lowry Road? Seeing none or hearing none, is there a motion to approve resolution 11-2021?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, we will now have the roll call, Angie, if you don't mind, on the
Mr.
vote to
Peterman.
approve 11. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Approved.
Peterman,
Approved.
Mr. Bixby,
Approved.
Dr. Jett,
Approve.
Dr. Murtada,
Approved.
Ms. Payne,
Approve.
Reverend Robinson,
Approved.
Judge Salinas.
Approved. The
Thank you.
motion carried. We'll move on to item 9, the Strategic Planning Committee. Dr. Jett.
Okay, I will call on Garrett, but I also want to thank Kevin and Russell for the presentation.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I second that.
Hello, members of the board and guests. I hope everyone's doing well tonight. We are submitting a resolution for approval of the core components of the 2021-2023 IndyPL strategic plan. So that resource was provided and should be in your packet. I'm also going to share my screen here to run through and answer any questions that any members of the board might have about anything. So you'll see that some of the areas just reference what will go there. We're still working on the layout and still need to craft some of the more narrative commentary and narrative content when it comes to things like our buildings or some other initiatives that we have in relation with the foundation. And so we'll add that in the coming weeks as we're working on the full presentation, if you will, for print. And so what we're looking for tonight is approval of the core components, meaning our mission, vision, values, our strategic priorities, and then the metrics associated with those. That's the true meat of the plan itself. And then we'll add the rest and then and make sure it's fine-tuned, and then we'll send it off for the full print. So like I said, we're working on the exactly how everything's gonna be pieced together. Something that the board has seen before. So this is our mission and vision statements, along with how we want to display and practice and execute our values in terms of racial equity being the lens through which we live and execute all of our values. And then the definition of each of our values as defined by our steering committee and breakout groups to reflect what these things mean in the truest sense and best sense of application to the work we do every day in IndyPL. And then you get into our strategic priorities. And so each section has a narrative reference to it, or a summation of things we're talking about, what we're referring to, what we mean in terms of that area being a priority. And then each priority is followed by that area's strategic objectives in a narrative form. So you may have seen it previously in an Excel spreadsheet. We decided to take it a more narrative direction to convey those. We think it'll display better in the final format, and just be more, it'll be easier to synthesize as well. So you see we have racial equity here, partnerships, and then our information and literacies. Our information and literacies is broken into 5 areas. And that is our digital and technology inclusions. Previously, this was noted as the digital technology divide, but we had a really good suggestion from McKinsey on our staff who oversees the Central Computer Lab about changing that to inclusion, to better aligning it with our overall tone of the plan itself and what we're after. And so we made that change. So we have under information literacies, we have digital and technology inclusion. We have education with of course, our related objectives. Reading and writing, our health and wellness, and then lastly, our financial literacy piece. And And then, and all this, while these narratives are new to some members of the board, this is all just the same information that's been in metric spreadsheets before that, again, is just narratively written out. And then we'll have some additional content, as I referred to earlier, that we'll need to draft that talks about our different partnerships with the foundation in terms of the DEOI, the Digital Encyclopedia of Indianapolis, our sustainability plan for CBLC, and then our racial equity training efforts for IndyPL staff. A section that is reserved for our capital projects. So Fort Bend, West Prairie, Glendale, and then the curve redesign. And then that area has a goal associated with it in terms of getting our door count up to 4 million by the end of 2023. And then the rest of the plan is a summary of the process with a thank you and notification or identification of those that served on the steering committee as well as the board committee. And then we may have some other graphics and stuff on there. But so that is a brief overview of the content. So are there any questions from any members of the board? Okay, well, if there aren't, then we would ask for your support in passing this resolution to accept the core components of our strategic plan.
It came out of committee, so Russell, do we need a motion second or can we just vote?
If it came out of committee with a positive recommendation, then you could just take a second and vote.
Okay, is there a second on this?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on resolution 12-2021?
No, I'd just like to thank Garrett and also the steering committee for all of their hard work. It was very difficult to get through the process because it wasn't, when it began, it wasn't what we planned with regard to the outreach efforts and getting community input. But I think that this is going to be a really workable plan. So I commend you for your leadership. Thank you.
Really.
Thank you.
Good.
I appreciate that. And the committee, Dr. Jett and Dr. Martinez, I really appreciated their feedback, and Judge Salinas on shaping some of this and fine tuning some of it. Absolutely. And then, yes, and then the steering committee, they got together with me for a couple hours on a lot of Mondays to talk through, work through all this. So a lot of appreciation toward that group as well. So thank you.
Okay, I'm going to concur with Dr. Jett in the praise for everyone involved in this project. Angie, can we have a call the roll, please, on the resolution 12?
Yes, Mr. Biederman.
Approve.
Mr. Bigsby.
Approve.
Dr. Jett.
Approve.
Dr. Murtado.
Approve.
Ms. Payne.
Approve.
Reverend Robinson.
Approve.
Judge Salinas.
Approved.
Thank you.
Motion carried. We'll move on to the Library Foundation update. Reverend Robinson.
Thank you, Judge Salinas. Good evening.
Evening.
Every month, the Library Foundation provides an update to the library board. And so tonight, I'd like to give that update to the board. Tonight, I would like to begin our foundation report by sharing a donor story about why this person loves libraries and librarians. The story begins with, she haunted the children's section trying to help out and man. And she had endless patience for this lonely little boy who haunted the children's section, trying to help out and man the circulation desk, bravely insisting on retrieving back issues from the ill-lit periodical storage room all by herself, and so on. It must have been tremendously annoying, but she was so indulgent that I wouldn't realize this until I was long grown. I've always had great affection for libraries and found them to be places of solace everywhere I live. However, temporarily, even in other countries, I always rush to get a library card, and the fond memories I have of Miss Sharon and other librarians I've known over the years are surely the root cause for my love for libraries. So I'm thankful for that little story that just reminds us how what we do and the people, our staff who works every day with people in the library have a great impact on their lives and even into adulthood. Tonight, the Foundation Board of Directors, I would like to just share with you, the Foundation Board of Directors passed the 2021-2023 strategic plan. The full plan will be shared with the library board at a future meeting. The foundation is proud to support Meet the Artists, thanks to the generosity of Crystal DeHaan Family Foundation and friends of the library. We applaud the African American History Committee for successfully adapting this beloved program to a virtual format. The signage for the Michael D. O'Brien boardroom was installed this month. The foundation appreciates the library board for approving the renaming of the space to honor Michael's legacy. The foundation thanks 144 donors who made gifts last month. The following are our top corporate and foundation contributor. If you have had an opportunity, if you have an opportunity, please thank this donor because we're grateful for what they have done. BKD LLP was our top donor for last month. Also, I'd like to note that KRM, who presented just a little while earlier, and Powers and Sons, they're also donors to the foundation, and we really appreciate the support that they give, and I was glad to see them make their presentation this evening. This month, we're proud to provide funding for the following library programs. All programs are system-wide unless otherwise noted. Fall Fest 2021, Slam and Rhythms Challenge, concert series, international festivals and celebrations, Pocket Park Story Walk, Growing Global Citizens, Summer Reading Program, IndyPL Historic Document Digitization, the LSCR Literature Series, Business Automation with Code, Black Indy, East 38th Street, Mental Health and Well-Being, East 38th Street, Early Childhood Educators Workshops, Monument Circle Book Station to Central, and the LGBTQ, TQ, competency training with IYG. And also tonight we have our foundation president on our call tonight, and I don't know if President Jaggers would like to say anything at this time.
Hi, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm really on here tonight to give moral support. So I really enjoyed, I don't get to see TD do his presentation very often, and it was really good to see that. And I'm actually been thinking about how we can just give him some more engaging reports. And I had a couple ideas even just sitting here during the meeting tonight. So I'll get back with you about that, TD. And then I'm just really excited to later on hear from Michael Twyman and Tariq Robinson on the author engraving project. And so that's really one of the big reasons why I'm here tonight, is just to give them moral support. Enjoyed hearing from the programming people. Loved seeing that our donors, KR and Powers and Sons, make that great presentation earlier. And so I'm more here just to be supportive this evening. And at a future meeting, I think once the final printed version of our strategic plans are done, we will go ahead and I'll come back and give you a more thorough update on what is in our strategic plan. But we're real excited about it and just really appreciate the support we received from TD and Jackie and Garrett as we worked on getting that done and making sure we're coordinating with the library, what the library's needs are. And by the way, congratulations on passing the core parts of your strategic plan tonight. That's really exciting. So that's all I've got. If anybody has any questions for me or TD, if there's anything you want me to cover.
Yes, I wanted to find out how we can really advance the supportive work for the Center for Black Culture and Literature. It's such an important part of community engagement and outreach. And I don't think that any fundraising that we do or to sustain it will detract from other initiatives. So maybe not at this particular conversation and this time, but I'd like for us to really strategize how we can do things like have individual support. How can we actually do things like maybe memberships? There are all kinds of ways we can strategize, but I'm very fearful that we haven't tapped as many different ways and means and folks out in the community who would love to be supportive of the center.
We'd be happy to. We do have some thoughts on some ideas for what we can do as far as, you know, ways to raise some bigger money. And then we do have some donors who are, you know, everybody has the opportunity to make a gift to the CBLC through our website. So we do have a number of donors who do that already, but we could do a lot more that way. And I think a lot of it is just individual contacts. And, you know, when somebody has a donor that they think that they would like to introduce to the library and to the foundation, just to, you know, pass that individual along to us, and then we can work together and solicit people one by one. I think that's a pretty good way to do a real personalized ask. And we also, Terry Jett a while ago pointed out to us the idea of the kind of, it's very similar to what we have as far as our Friends program, but it's at the Schomburg Library, and it's part of, there's a quote unquote membership for that, and it's tied into other membership opportunities with the New York Public Library. And one thing that we want to do is a foundation staff is to create some stewardship protocols. So for example, donors who give at X dollars get this kind of recognition or this kind of you know, appreciation from us, and some opportunity. So we'd like, that's something that we want to tackle as part of our development plan as well. But I think that once we, you know, maybe I would think towards mid-year, we'll have had some more conversations with some bigger potential funders. We might be able to provide we would be able to provide more of an update at that time. So I'd be happy to come back and talk to you all about that. And
that would be very much appreciated, because what we're looking at in terms of the ways that African American communities and under tapped into communities often give lots, but I don't think we've adequately tapped into those ways that differentiate different communities. And so I'm looking forward to that conversation, and very much hope that we can do just what you said, Roberta, think of some different strategies.
That's good. And I'll just say too, as a preview for our strategic plan, there is a lot in our strategic plan that's about creating a culture of that includes a diversity, equity, inclusion. So we have some recruitment goals for our board. We have some things that we want to do in terms of an organizational audit. So we have training and an annual education opportunity for board staff and volunteers of the foundation. So what we're trying to do is we're also trying to build an organizational culture that will undergird our work with donors of color in a more authentic way, so that we can really connect well. And I think that's really, really important for us. So that's a big part of the thinking of our strategic plan as well. So anyway, I'm looking forward to talking with you about our strategic plan, and then we can talk further about the CBLC fundraising, and I'd be happy to do that. So thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Jaggers.
President Salinas, that ends our report for this evening.
Thank you, Reverend. I appreciate that, sir. We'll move on to the report of the CEO. Jackie?
Thank you, Judge Salinas. The first item I have for you this evening is our routine resolution regarding finances, personnel, and travel. This is resolution 13-2021. We have no travel in here this evening, but I do want to call your attention to a couple of staff actions that merit recognition. We have 3 retirements this year that represent a significant contribution to the library. Paula Weir from Lawrence is retiring after 18 years. Julie Abel from Central is retiring after 25 years. And Julie, by the way, has been, if you will, the queen of our cookbook collection. And so many, many people in the community have benefited from her passion for our cookbooks. And then we also are now announcing the retirement of Ruth Hans, who is the manager at the Warren Library. So these are among our many wonderful employees. These are 3 people who have made a significant contribution to the library over the years, and I want to make sure that they're publicly recognized. So, but I would submit Resolution 13-2021 for your approval this evening.
Okay, is there a motion to pass Resolution 13?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on Resolution 13? Hearing and seeing none. Angie, can we have a call to roll, please?
Mr. Biederman,
Approve.
Mr. Bigsby,
Approved.
Dr. Jett,
Approve.
Dr. Murtada,
Approved.
Ms. Payne,
Approved.
Reverend Robinson,
Approved.
Jett Salinas.
Approved.
Thank you.
Motion carried. Jackie, if you can pass on the board's well wishes to all those that are retiring and thank them for their service. I do appreciate that.
Will do. Certainly.
I'm assuming the board is okay with that. Go ahead, Jackie, item B.
Yes, the next 2 items we have for you are very exciting. We have 2 new projects that we would like to discuss with you this evening. The first one, I would like to invite Tariq Robinson, who is an adult program specialist, to speak, and along with him, Dr. Michael Twyman, who is a donor to our Library Foundation. And they are going to tell you about a new project that we've been developing related to the names that are engraved at Central Library. Gentlemen, could you please present? And I think, Joe, do you need to do the PowerPoint for them?
Yes, actually, I think I may have the capability to share my screen, so I'm going to try that now. Let's see, just a second. All right. Can everyone see my screen? All right.
Yes.
Well, thanks again, Jackie, Judge Salinas, and the entire board for having us here. I'm so excited about this project that I have been allowed to be a part of. And again, being a new person to the library, it's very, it's just exciting to kind of learn the history about what's happened before and to be a part of what's going to be happening in the future as well. So with that, I'll just start with a little bit of history about the library, which most of you I'm sure are already familiar with. Paul Cray, a Philadelphia-based architect, designed Central Library. The original building was constructed in Greek Doric style, faced with Indiana limestone on a Vermont marble base. Central Library opened to the public on October 8th, 1917. The building underwent a major renovation and expansion that culminated in its present look and atrium, which doubled the square footage in 2007. As an architectural masterpiece and a crown jewel of the downtown landscape, Central is one of the 100 largest public libraries in the country and the recipient of numerous awards. It was added to the National Register of Historic Landmarks in 1975. Etched into the edifice's limestone outside and plaster insides are names of famous authors and writers drawn over from all over the world and across time, from the earliest Greeks through the 19th century and into the 20th. According to the publication Stacks, A History of the Indianapolis-Marion County Public Library, a committee of distinguished Indianapolis residents, both men and women, selected 76 names to be engraved in the front portico and encircling delivery room for when the building opened in 1917. Of the names chosen, the list also includes scientists, philosophers, naturalists, and dramatists. Only 5 are women and none are persons of color. As part of Central's most recent renovation, a group of 42 former McFadden authors and a smaller vetting group chose 5 names from a list of those they thought to be the greatest literary individuals of the 20th century. These names are engraved on the north end of the Cray building facing the atrium. Of the 5, none are women or persons of color. The history enshrined in Central's walls did not go unnoticed by a young kid who would become a man aware of what representation means in these types of spaces. And at this time, I'd like to introduce to you all Dr. Michael Twyman, board or library donor, and to share just a little bit about the project goals for this effort.
Thank you so much, Mr. Robinson. It's a pleasure to be with you, trustees. Hopefully you all can hear me. I just wanted to maybe share my comments briefly in the form of a story. So I, as some of you know, have been a lifelong patron of the Indianapolis Public Library and a frequent visitor and patron of Central Library, although that didn't grow up downtown. It was the library that I went to most often and that my family as well as my parents would take me to. So my familiarity with Central is not only longstanding, but I have a very intimate feel of the building, both the old building and prior to the renovation, meaning I knew a lot of the nooks and crannies, and I always spent a lot of time in it, even as a young adult. So I can't tell you exactly when I had noted that of the names that are engraved in the inscriptions around the building, that none of those were persons who looked like me. And like many other things, particularly in public spaces, is something that I pay attention to, probably less as a child, more so as a teenager, and definitely by the time I was a young adult, which of course parallels the time that I would have been visiting Central. Let me fast forward to around 2007, in a previous life in philanthropy, when I was stewarding a large grant that culminated in the establishment of the Nina Mason Pulliam Special Collections Room at Central. I had the opportunity to take many, many hard hat tours during the renovation process. And for those who were around during that time, you know that that was an attenuated process because it was an extended timeline. And so, I mean, it came down to even looking at carpet selections and color and design, and different features that were going into the Central Library renovation and expansion project. On one particular day, standing in what now is the atrium, before it looked the way it does now, and having a discussion with the Library Foundation president at the time, I mentioned to him that none of the existing names, as I could best tell, that are engraved on the outside and the inside of Central were persons of color. Well, the ironic thing about that timing is that in 2007, for the opening, that there were 5 names added. So there was a new opportunity. If you go back into history and you read the records, particularly as they're documented in the Stacked book, it'll talk about what the process was in 1917. There's a little less information about 2007, but be that as it may, I still had this nagging that was a part of me every time I walked into Central. So fast forward again, maybe about 9 months or a year ago, I brought the issue up again to our current Library Foundation president, along with Jackie, and said, I think it's time that we do something about this. This is hopefully not who we are. And there is, I think, a real opportunity for us to look at a future that is much more reflective of not only our community, but probably most importantly, all the very fine contributions, particularly Black people have made in the area of literature. And so for that reason, the impetus and an idea behind this project and the goals that come along with it really are ones that are designed to make Central a more welcoming and belonging environment that hopefully expands its appeal and reach to persons of diverse backgrounds, but also to educate the public about authors and writers of color. Central needs to, like all of its branches, be more representative and reflective in every aspect of its being of the diversity that exists within the larger public that we serve. The other thing is to really use the public space to better promote and advance diversity, equity, and inclusion, which of course is aligned with the strategic plan that was just presented. And as Dr. Murtada talked about, opportunities for Black philanthropy and persons of color giving, we do it oftentimes when we can see ourselves. And so a part of this process is having greater ownership. And the greater ownership comes from providing images and giving attribution to those that are reflective of a number of different cultures. The last thing I would say is just really providing a more accurate and an inclusive historical narrative of what the world's historical, literary, and artistic development has been, and being able to do that in a way that we can celebrate the contributions, particularly of Black authors and writers. And so with that, I'll give it back to Mr. Robinson to talk about what we're thinking about how we move forward and move towards trying to accomplish these goals.
Thank you, Dr. Twyman. So this project is basically going to run in sort of a phased project or phased manner. We will, as additional resources become available and placement opportunities are identified, more names will be added. It is our hope. The first phase is to add 11 names of Black individuals, and it's also included the completed following tasks of a diverse group of staff coming together, and myself being the project lead for the effort, comprehensive survey and analysis of existing names and biographies. Again, it's an opportunity that we can not only educate ourselves and the public about new names, but the names that exist now, which I think a lot of people probably walk by and don't even notice. But well, also a budget has been developed and a prospective engraver contract has been contacted, and then a community input process and selection criteria has been established. Preliminary ways identified to enhance programming, education, and outreach. Again, it's just because of the times in which we are living and experiencing. I think people are hungry again to kind of see themselves and know that they've been a part of all of our history. We are so excited and thankful to those who have already stepped up and committed financial support. So far, we've have a total of $21,000 that has been committed by Dr. Michael Twyman Endowment Fund, Michael and Adelpha Twyman, the Lillian Endowment, Indianapolis Public Library, and request is pending to the Indianapolis Foundation Library Fund. And as far as our timeline, we are ongoing with our meetings, our project committee meetings. Again, trying to put together that that list, initial list that will go out to folks to get that community input in May and June. Engravings will begin in July, and project completion will be is scheduled for October 4th, the anniversary of the CBLC. And we are, again, just so thankful for staff stepping forward to give up their time to sit on this committee and do the work of making sure that more people are represented within the public library at Central. And so I, again, just thank you for the time. Thank you, Jackie, for your leadership, and Judge Salinas and the rest of the board for your support in this project. And
Mr. Robbins, if I may, speaking on behalf of me, I want to tell you I'm 100% behind this project. And I can tell you, that, Michael, that I agree. When you don't see names that resemble your history in areas, especially the areas that I walk around the courts, it does impact you. It does make you think and wonder why it is like that. So I'm 100% behind this project. My hope is someday as you go forward, we can expand that to other groups as well. But yes, I personally am 100% behind this, and best of luck.
Mr. Robinson, you might want to mention the placement of the first set of names. And I wanted to just bring to your attention, if you've never noticed, which is very stark, that even as you're approaching the stairs up to the CLBC, the names that are in that area are names of those 76 people who are are not persons of color. And so, not to steal Mr. Robinson's thunder, but that area for us, more so than any, is really a focal point for the inclusion aspect of this process in terms of what places in Central really especially scream out for greater representation.
yes, thank you, Dr. Twyman, for mentioning that. Yes, so that area currently consists of 10 names, and we are looking at how to, there are opening spaces or spaces that are that don't have a name currently on them. We are considering options that would perhaps relocate names to other places and fill in spaces with new names. Yes, we are, looking for, not only just keeping names in that area, new names or names by Black authors in that area, but expanding to other corridors within the CRAE that might allow for room. Because one thing, and I think Dr. Twyman raised this when we initially had our first meeting, it was that we don't want to segregate names to one area. This is the Black author area. So, keeping that in mind too, that, it should be about us being everywhere, other ethnicities being everywhere, more women being included as well. So yes, that's a very important thought that's going to carry through this as well.
Well, thank you both. I appreciate that presentation.
I have a question. What are the names?
Well, we don't have a defined list at this point. We are, again, at our initial meeting, we threw out, names that of authors, writers, thinkers who have contributed, have a a body of work that has contributed to not only America, but the world in general. But some names like Maya Angelou, came up. Mari Evans, names again that deserve to be and have the gravitas of being up there with all those other names.
That's going to come more so through the committee that is going to do an initial list that will then, Dr. Jett, be shared with the larger public or community that is a vetted name with some criteria. One of the things that's been discussed is the probably importance of choosing names or having names on the list that are persons who are no longer living. You may be familiar, particularly being on the facilities committee, when you get into naming things and engraving names of people who are living while their chapter hasn't been closed yet, it could be a little dicey or tricky for a number of different reasons. I won't go into that right now, but one of the criterion is to look at those persons who are no longer living, but it'll be up to the committee doing a first cut on some names and then having that list shared for a public input process that would allow for some selection.
Dr. Payne, I think you had a question.
I was just going to say, this sounds like a very, very exciting project, and I am looking forward to just keeping up with it as it goes along. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, folks. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, guys. Item C, Jackie?
Yes, Judge, thank you so much. And we appreciate everyone's thoughts about that. Tarek and Michael have been thinking quite deeply, and we're excited about this work. Our next project we want to update you on actually is the result of a question asked by Dr. Murtada several meetings ago. And at this point, I would like to invite Stephen Lane, who is our special collections librarian for the Indianapolis Special Collections Room and is our local historian, to speak to you about the first Black librarian. Stephen?
Well, thank you so much, Jackie, and good evening. Good evening to members of the board. Good evening, Pat Payne. It is a pleasure to be here with you all tonight to talk about Indiana's first Black librarian. So I'm going to share my screen now, pull up my presentation for you all. So our very first Black librarian, her name was Lillian Childress Hall. And there she is pictured on the steps of Central Library around the 1940s, 1950s. I pulled this picture off of our Digital Indy website. So digitalindy.org has a lot of our institutional history as well as the history of our city. So there she is. Just to give you a little bit of background info on her, she was born Lillian Sunshine Hayden in Louisville, Kentucky on February 24th, 1889. She was the youngest child of George and Elizabeth Wintersmith Hayden and attended Fisk University, which is a historically Black university and college down in Nashville, Tennessee. And she was taking courses to become a teacher. And down at Fisk University is where she met her first husband, William Childress, who was some sort of scientist. And they, after she graduated from Fisk University, they moved around to Washington, D.C., to back to Tennessee before she landed a job working for the Evansville Public Library in Evansville, Indiana, at a Black branch. And while she was working there as a library assistant, she ended up taking a summer class at Butler University here in Indianapolis given by the Indiana State Library School, and she became our first certified Black librarian in the state of Indiana in 1915. And moving on, before she came to Indianapolis, so Indianapolis started to have its own ideas of creating a Black branch for the Indianapolis Public Library. Before she moved up here in 1921, I will mention that William passed away from an infection due to surgery. They had one son together, and he went to live with grandparents down in Tennessee. So this is a picture of Mayor John Duval's, one of his mayoral dinners in the 1920s. So as we know, Indianapolis in the 1920s had a very large Ku Klux Klan presence. And it later came out that John Duval, our mayor of Indianapolis, was a card-carrying KKK member. So he ended up resigning, and his wife actually became mayor of Indianapolis for 15 minutes. So for 15 minutes, we did have a woman mayor at one point. So I can say that the Indianapolis Public Library was under the Indianapolis Public School Board at that time. And Pat Payne can talk a lot about that history, but I will say they were very much influenced by Klan ideology, this idea of white supremacy and segregating libraries as well as our school system. So this is one document just talking about the formation of the Paul Laurence Dunbar Branch Library that opened up in Indianapolis through the Indianapolis Public Library on May of 1922. And it opened up as a part of a school, which is school number 26, or in that time it was called Frederick Douglass School. It was an elementary school. And that building is still standing to this day. I believe the Oaks Academy runs out of that building. So just to give you an idea of the motivation for starting this branch, I'll read this second paragraph here where it says, there really was no particular demand for this branch on the part of the Negroes, and excuse me for the language that the language is dated, very dated. The necessity for relieving the situation at Central Library and the other branches being the main incentive. So it wasn't to really create a branch to celebrate Black people here in Indianapolis. It was really trying to get them out of branches like Central Library and other kind of neighborhood branches around the city. So that's what Lillian Hall walked into. And when she got here August 1st, 1921, she started and ran the Paul Laurence Dunbar branch for many years, from 1921 to 1927. And while she was there, she was doing all kinds of programming, like doing book clubs, doing book talks and teas, and having presenters come in. She even got the CEO of the library, Luther Dickerson, into some of her programs to support. So she was just a powerhouse working in her community. And here's a picture of one of the story times that happened at the Paul Laurence Dunbar branch. This is in the 1930s. When they did a big umbrella story time out on the lawn of school number 26 and outside of the Dunbar branch. And you can see that there were way too many kids to fit under that small umbrella. So you can really see how interested, even back then, that kids have been into storytelling and in participating in our library services.
Is Childress in this picture?
She is not in that picture. So this would have been after she moved over to Crispus Attucks. So she then moved over to Crispus Attucks in 1927, where it was a newly opened building for Black high school students in a segregating Indianapolis. And so she increased the circulation of books. The first year was open. In the report, it says she increased the circulation from 28 books a day to 321 books a day. She increased the registered card holders up into the 704 borrowers. And you can see that 178 card holders were transferred from Central Library over to the Addicts branch. So that they could use those services there.
Wow.
And she was just amazing. So this bit of information I'm going to read for you now comes from an Indiana State Librarian, Michelle Fenton. She wrote a really awesome article about Lillian Hall called Stepping Out on Faith. So besides her duties as a librarian, Lillian Hall was also a community activist. She helped organize the Indianapolis chapter of the American War Mothers, was president of the Phyllis Wheatley branch of the Young Women's Christian Association, served on the boards of the Cancer Society and the Alpha Home, worked with the Indianapolis Interracial Committee, and was president of Book Lovers Club. So she was just doing all of these things, and she had this wonderful relationship with the Indianapolis Recorder. So whenever she had a program, they would pump it out. And even the Indianapolis Recorder said, you know, if you're looking for a career, maybe consider librarianship. And they even gave an example as a good librarian, which was Lillian Childress Hall. So even here on the left, you can see that she had national attention as she was featured in a book published in the 1940s called Who's Who in Colored America. And it's just a really great bio of her life and her career as a librarian here in Indianapolis. So Lillian built and managed 2 Black branch librarians here in the Indianapolis Public Library System. She retired from IndyPL as the head of Addicts branch in 1956. And sadly, yes, she was there 29 years. She was in our system. So, and passed away 2 years later, April 23rd. And she's buried next to her second husband, John Wesley Hall. But she continues to be an inspiration to us here at IndyPL and so many librarians throughout the country. So thank you so much for giving me the space to present on her. If there are any questions, I'd love to take them.
Yeah,
I hope you can hear us applauding.
Yeah, there was some precious history you just gave us. That's a name that needs to be etched in stone. We need to have, in fact, we need a big statue of her. I am telling you, that was information I had never heard about her being the head of the Addicts Library from 1927 to 1956. That was amazing. Thank you so much for that information. And I do want a copy.
I will send you that. I'm going to send you that article too, because there's a piece in that article where it said that one of the Addicts students actually became the first Black librarian to head an academic library. And I believe, and she was there at the time when Lillian Hall was the head librarian. So I'm sure that Lillian had something to do with that.
Yeah. Jackie, how can we honor her in the library?
Well, Dr. Payne, thank you for asking that, because what we are now prepared to do is to draft a proposal that we would take to the Facilities Committee to identify an area at Central Library that could be named after Lillian. We will have to assess the various spaces. There are some spaces at Central that have not been named yet, and so we will be drafting a proposal and ask the Facilities Committee to consider that and hopefully recommend it to the full board.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. Appreciate that.
Before you go on, I just want to tell you personally, Jackie, thank you for following up on that. When we brought it up, I had forgotten that I had even asked about it. And so thank you. And of course, Stephen, thank you very much. This means a
Yes.
great deal, not only to our Black communities, the history is all of our history. It's all of our history. And it's so important that we capture names. And like Judge Salinas had said, we've got to pay attention to who are the Latinx folks who are contributing to the growth and development of
That's
this
right.
community. If we don't start doing a better job of it, then we are not the kind of publicly facing and public serving institution that we need to be. So thank you.
Right.
Thank you for being responsive.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Mr. Lane, I apologize to the board for running over. We have one more item to discuss. Item D, Jackie.
Yes, Judge Salinas, and I can handle this fairly quickly. It is actually not an item for a presentation this evening, but because we have provided this document to the city, I wanted to make sure that the board members had a copy of it as well. This is the annual inclusion plan for the public library. This is something that we are required to prepare and submit to the city as part of our effort of participating in supplier diversity work. And we have a number of deliverables in the course of the year related to this. It reflects the supplier diversity policies that the board has approved in recent months, and actually does identify a number of significant milestones that we either have already achieved or are committed to achieve. So it's mostly for your information this evening. This is some of the work that Jessica has been leading, and she will be reporting to you in greater detail when she comes. Our intent right now is for Jessica to report to you quarterly on the progress that we are making on these various initiatives. So this is to at least keep you in the loop until she is able to report to the board on a wider array of matters.
Right.
Thank you.
Jackie. Any comments or questions on item D? Does that conclude your report, Jackie?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Okay, I want to, item 14, want to remind all board members that if you do have any items for consideration for the board, please let all of us know, especially if you have anything to set for the March board meeting date. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I really do appreciate the opportunity for the Jaggers to share with us about the plans. Is that for the next board meeting?
I can do that whenever it's convenient for this group. So I could do it at the next meeting. I think that the idea was for us to coordinate on when the library's printed plan was ready and when our printed plan was ready, and to do something at a coordinated effort. So we're hoping it's maybe next month or maybe the month after that, but we'll be back as soon as we can.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Our next meeting is Monday, March 22nd. And as of right now, I'm anticipating that it's going to be virtual as well, okay? Hopefully Russell and can give us an update eventually by email on whether the governor extends the emergency order and the progress of all bills that are related to allowing boards like us to have at least the capability to meet virtually.
We'll continue to do that, Judge, as we've been doing to you and to Jackie.
If there's no other business that the board would want to address, seeing none, hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Everyone, please be safe. If you're eligible to get the shot, please do so. God bless everybody. Bye-bye.